So ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. My name is David Miller. I work with the National Responsible Fatherhood Clearinghouse. We are responsible for promoting President Obama's Responsible Fatherhood Initiative. And this afternoon, we're going to have a serious conversation about fatherhood, about manhood, about mentoring, and about community. This particular event is going to be broadcasted live via WURD, and so as we take questions, because one of the things that we want to do, we have a large number of men in the room who specifically focused on fatherhood and mentoring and working in communities. We want to make sure that the young brothers, that all of the young brothers in this room, if there is something on your heart, if you have a question, if you have a comment related to some of the things that you guys are dealing with on a day-to-day basis, we want to be able to create this forum or this opportunity or this event, young brothers, to hear what you have to say. And so part of our work with the Clearinghouse is we've launched an initiative called Fatherhood Buzz. And Fatherhood Buzz is an initiative where we work with barbershops across the United States, disseminating information, sharing information in barbershops about what it means to be good fathers. Our sole body of work, or our sole interest, the things, brothers, that we're interested in doing is figuring out a way to get fathers more engaged in the lives of boys. And I just want to introduce just a couple of key people so you'll have an understanding of some of the men that are in the room, and some of the other men will introduce themselves. We also have men and women in the audience that are doing serious work with children and families. On the camera in the back is Kenny Braswell. Kenny is the National Director of the National Responsible Fatherhood Clearinghouse and also Fathers Incorporated. So could y'all give it up for Kenny Braswell? Can we do that again, y'all? That was like a golf clap. Yeah, I mean, we in Philadelphia, and we come a little better. On the front row, we have Patrick Patterson. Patrick, stand up. Patrick runs the day-to-day operations in terms of making sure that we're able to outreach to communities, working with fathers across the United States. And let's give it up for Ed Lawson to my far right. And Ed is also responsible for outreach, and my name is David Miller. Most of what I do is related to social media. And so let's set the table, brothers. As I said earlier, we really want to make sure that the younger brothers in here have a voice. Too often we do events, we do conferences, we do summits, we do gatherings, and young brothers don't have an opportunity to talk. This is going to be different. This entire conversation is going to be generated based on the energy of the young brothers that are assembled here this afternoon. And so our format is going to be really simple. We have I was going to say some elders, but we got a young brother in the middle. So we definitely got some elders and some wisdom on the stage, and we also have a young brother. They'll have an opportunity to introduce themselves, and then I'm going to throw out one or two questions for the brothers that are seated on the stage, and then we're going to come right to the young brothers and the families and the parents in the audience, because again, ladies and gentlemen, we're at war. When you look at what's happening in Philadelphia and Newark and other cities in this region, we are losing too many young black males to violence. We're losing too many young men to the penitentiary. And I believe, based on the work that I do, that if we can really begin to dramatically increase father involvement in the lives of boys, we can reduce the drama, the trauma, and the chaos that we're having in communities. But it's going to take a couple of things. One, it's going to take us as men committing to be better fathers. Y'all can at least clap for that. Come on, y'all. Come on. Come on, y'all. Can I get all of the fathers to stand up very quickly? Because I want the young brothers to see that you have fathers in your midst. Can y'all clap it up for the fathers? Now, y'all know that was a golf clap. Can we do better than that? Can y'all clap it up for the fathers? And the grandfathers? Where the grandfathers? Any grandfathers? Stand up. Oh, young grandfathers. Young looking grandfathers. Young looking grandfathers. Where are my mothers? Any mothers in the house? It's Mother's Day. Can we at least acknowledge the mothers? And for all of the young brothers 18 years old and younger, stand up. Yes. If you're younger than 18, let's clap it up for the young brothers. Thank you, thank you. As you came in, on your chairs, there were a couple of different documents that we wanted to share with you. One is a tip card. We wanted to give you guys a sense of some of the kinds of information that we're disseminating to barbershops. If you didn't get that information, just raise your hand. We'll be able to make sure that you get these particular cards. So Ed, if you can make sure each row gets those cards. The second card is a tear-off card. If you put your information and email address on the card, particularly those of you that are interested in information related to responsible fatherhood and mentoring, please make sure you tear off the card, fill out the information. Someone will come by and you can actually drop it in the box. And so those are two very critical pieces of information. And so without further ado, are y'all ready? Yeah. Raise your hand if you're afraid to have this conversation. You're afraid. Some of y'all scared already. 2 people, 3 people, they're afraid. Why you afraid, ma'am? I'm putting you on the spot. Why you afraid?
I was trying to get the card. I wasn't ready.
Okay, so she said, let's clean that thing up. She's not afraid. And so, ladies and gentlemen, once again, our format is going to be very simple. We have a number of men that are in the audience that are moving around, that also have microphones. For the young brothers, as long as you ask your question appropriately, we're going to answer. No matter how painful the question or the comment might be, this is your opportunity to be open and honest with us. And so let's go to the panel first, and these are all guys who are in Philly, working in Philly. Let's start with my distinguished gentleman on the left. He's a big dude. He tried to walk up on me, but I had to, let him know I'm from Baltimore. And so can you just share with us your name, what you do, and just kind of give us a reflection about what fatherhood means to you?
Thank you, David, and it's really a pleasure to be here. My name's Marcus Allen. I'm the CEO for Big Brothers Big Sisters of Southeastern Pennsylvania. One of the interesting things, I was talking to a guy on the way in here and saying to him that Big Brothers Big Sisters wants to get more involved in our community, and he was saying that Big Brothers Big Sisters has been seen as a white organization. And I said, well, that may be the perception, but right now we're serving 80% African American kids, and we're serving our community. So I'm here today to really talk about what fatherhood means to our community, as well as what mentoring means to our community. Because many times our kids don't have fathers. And so there's a lot of us men in our communities that can be mentors for our kids. So I'm just really happy to be here, David, and I want to just engage in some of the conversation that's going to be happening here this afternoon.
Thank you. The next brother.
My name is Isaac Patterson. I'm currently still a high school student at Imhotep Charter, senior, class of 2014. I'm active in the community, speaking at Mumia Abdul Jamal events, and also talking about mass incarceration in the age of color blindness. I recently did my senior project on the wealth inequality in America and the effects it has on the disenfranchised ability to climb the socioeconomic ladder. And amongst other things, I'm also advocating for my father who is running for state representative in the 190th legislative district, speaking at several events in his honor.
Bilal?
Good afternoon. I'm Bilal Qayyum, president of the Father's Day Rally Committee, the oldest fatherhood group in the country. This year we're celebrating our 25th anniversary in the city of Philadelphia. And I quickly would like to say this, because I have to say this every time I speak now. This is a black male symposium, and black males are unique and special. I just want you to think 1 second. Every time a black male walks out of his house in the morning, he doesn't know what's going to happen to him. Black women, white men, white women, Asian men, Latino men, none of them have that on their back the way we have it. So when you walk out in the morning, you don't know if you're going to be stopped by the police, You don't know if you're going to run into another angry black man and get into a confrontation and be shot. You don't know when you go to work, and I'm talking about, I know the young folks, or you go to school, or particularly if you go to work, you don't know when you go to work if you're going to be fired. In the black community, we have an old saying that we're the last hired but first fired. So no other human beings walking the earth in America have to wake up with that burden except for black males. So we're unique and we're special. Because of that, we have to take care of each other.
Right.
And watch each other's back. Because I'm going to tell you, brothers, no one else is going to do that but us. So I had to make that statement because I also have to make that statement every time I speak now, because we have to understand the seriousness of how black males is being under a constant attack every single day. And we also have to understand that it's up to us to solve the problem and make sure that every single black man around us and every single black man in this auditorium today is watched over by other black men. And I'm end quickly by saying I'm not leaving out the sisters or women because they're watching our back all the time, and I understand that. But I want the people to understand the seriousness of black males being under daily attack in America and what we have to go through. So loving each other, caring for each other, and watching out each other has to be the message that we're going to leave here today for us to survive in the future.
Thank you. Can we give it up for the brothers? And so, ladies and gentlemen, we're blessed to have some very serious men who represent both the Philadelphia community and other communities. And we're going to throw out one of the first questions to the men, and then we're going to come to the young brothers. So for the young brothers, don't be nervous. There is no question or comment that you can put on the table that will offend us as long as it's done appropriately, because we really want to hear what you guys have to say. And so I'm going to throw out the first question to Kenny Braswell. And for the brothers and the sisters that are in the audience, I want you to kind of listen to and think about all of the responses that you're hearing, because next we're going to come directly to the young people because we really want to hear what you guys have to say. And so, Kenny, as a father, what are some of the kinds of things that we need to encourage fathers to do with their sons?
Wow. You know, I just wrote a blog, actually posted yesterday, and I have a 5-year-old son, only boy. And the blog was called, "What If We Told Our Black Boys They Could Soar?" And the article came about watching my 5-year-old son doing what boys do. Climb over the couch, jump down the stairs, jump on my back, wrestle around my legs, and the enjoyment in watching him being a boy and understanding that it's okay for him to be a boy until he's ready to be a man. And I think that now that I'm a father of a son, it has given me a perspective on how to actually do this work for boys. And that is, we cannot rush them to be men, whether or not it's men rushing them to be men or single mothers rushing them to be the man of the house. Your sons will never be the man of the house until they learn how to be a man. And manhood comes through masculinity, which a man possesses. Is that okay with you? Because I'm preaching better than y'all amening. All right? And so for my son, you know, it is always positively feeding into him that he has the ability to soar. He is one of those kids who, at 5 years old, loves wearing superhero costumes. He is into Superman, Batman, anything that could run faster than a locomotive, Ben Steele with their bare hands, who disguised as Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper. That's my son, right? And so What I understand about him is that he possesses the ability to have superpowers, but those aren't necessarily his superpowers. That he has the ability to do anything that he wants to do as long as I allow his mind to be able to dream about what he wants to be. And we got to get back to a place where we allow our boys to dream about what they will ultimately be, as opposed to agonize about the conditions that they happen to be living in.
Y'all can clap for the brother now. Don't be afraid. And for the gentleman, because again, we want to try to get as many comments as we can before we go to the brothers. Brother Marcus, what are some of the kinds of things fathers should be doing with their sons?
Well, you know, today I brought my two daughters, my 9 and 11-year-old daughters, and put them on the spot. But I also have a son who's 19 years old. And I come at it from, you know, my own experience growing up in the projects and then moving to I'm from down south, so I'm from Atlanta. And so when we moved from Atlanta, we was chronically homeless. We moved to a small town, about 10,000 people. And I joke sometimes, I tell people, I said, you know, urban poverty is really tough and difficult. Then we moved to rural poverty, right? We lived in a house where there was no running water. We had to go and get water out of a well. We had to use the bathroom outside. It was a wooden house. We lived on a dirt road with probably 3 houses within a 5-mile radius, right? So we didn't have the resources of an urban center like Philadelphia. And so what we did was we relied on a lot of what we call the old heads, right? And going back to your comment, David, you said elderly. I'm 42, man. Is that considered elderly now? No. But so getting back to David's question, you know, when it comes to young boys, and I work with juveniles down at 1801 Vine, so these were kids who are on their last leg before going to prison. And so I was their last hope to try to keep them out of prison. And one of the things that I noticed in those boys, just like I noticed in my son, was the fact that they weren't exposed to enough positive male role models. Even my son, here it is, I am former professional basketball player, went to the Denver Nuggets out of college, went overseas, played in Europe, Sweden, Finland, Israel, Argentina, come back, and I'm thinking all of these things are going to be the main ingredients to make my son into a man. And my son still had his challenges. And it wasn't enough just me being there and being that strong man. And so I started talking to some of my mentors, and they say, well, you know, one of the things we as men need to do, and what I learned with my son, is just show, you know, it's good, you know, many of us men, we can show tough love. But the thing is, our kids are seeing tough love on the streets, or versions of it on the streets every day. And so what I had to do to change was look at what my son needed, because different kids need different things. And so I was down in a court system where they would go to these kids and threatening them with, we're going to give you 2 years in boot camp, we're going to give you 2 years in residential treatment. And I'm thinking about, well, these kids are facing life or death situations every day on the street. So our kids don't need to be threatened. Our kids don't need to be, our boys don't need to be told that they're not going to be anything or face harsh consequences, because they see the consequences. What we got to do is start to educate them on how to learn, how to see the system, how to understand and not give excuses for the way things are, but to understand this is a system that's not geared towards the betterment of our community. This is a system that's not geared towards raising and developing black men. But this is the system that we have. This is the system that we have to live within. And there's ways that we can teach our boys about how to be financially empowered, how to respect yourselves, how to greet people, how to deal with when you're going on a job interview. And so those are the things the real skills I think that we need to give our boys. It's not just about the talk. It's really about how do we give them skills to put into action, and that's going to help them to become real men.
And so thank you, Brother Mark. Y'all clap it up for the brother. Before we jump to Brother Isaac, I want to jump out into the crowd to see if any of the young men want to tackle this question. What are some of the kinds of things that you would like to do with your father? Or what are some of the kinds of things that you would like to see fathers doing with boys in the community? All you have to do, brothers, is raise your hands, and we have 2 mics in the middle, and we're going to come to you.
Here you go. My name is Deshaun Hughley. I'm here with Bridge, and how I would come at the question would be is like, show that you're there for your son, and show that you're there for your son and make him feel like you're always going to be there for him. Because with me, like with my situation, I don't have my father in my life. And I basically rely on Bridge, and I feel like they're my brothers. And my mentors are like my father figures in my life.
Clap it up for the young brother. Clap it up. Show the brother some love, y'all. We have a question here or comment up front, and then we have a few in the back. We want to try to get all of the young brothers, and we appreciate you guys.
One thing I realized from also coming from a household without a father is that when your father's not around, you start to look for role models, not even positive role models, just role models in general that you look up to, and you think that, oh, maybe I can be like him. It's the first person you see. It's not necessarily the strongest or the fastest or the smartest person you see. It's the first person you see. The first person you see when you're 5 years old or like 6 years old, trying to become a man yourself. And the first thing you need to do is find out what that kid wants or dreams are or aspirations are, and you need to figure out, how can I encourage that kid? How can I make him be that? How can I feed his ambitions? Not how can I break him down and suck him into this world of the crack gang or being in the gang or being the dropout or something like that. You need to figure out what that is and encourage it.
Thank you, brother. We appreciate you. Y'all show the brother some love. We have about 3 or 4 questions in the back. Let's make sure that we get all of those young brothers in the back. Let's quickly go to the back, because young men, this is all about you. Yes, sir.
Hey, my name is Jay. I'm a college student at Delaware County Community College. I noticed with my father, the way he interacted with me is about giving him like my dad gave me exactly what I needed as a kid. It wasn't tough love. It was more of a love that is appropriate for how a colored man should react with his son nowadays. My dad never pulled no game on me. He's like, son, you're gonna be judged for the way you look, the way you talk, the way you act. His father wasn't around, so I appreciate the way he treated me, because he was a chain that broke. He was a link that broke the chain. He made sure I was an upstanding young gentleman from the day I was born. Look, the way I'm dressed right now is because he snapped at me today morning. He's like, you're not leaving the house looking like trash now. So I appreciate the fact that my dad went out of his way to make sure I had a better life than he did for not having a father.
Let's clap it up for the brother. Thank you, sir. Young man in the hoodie.
How y'all doing? My name is Karan. I actually did have a father figure in my house, but he just was telling me all the wrong things. Like, he was just trying to shoot me down. Like, I mean, he done told me I ain't love you, you know, but at the end of the day, like, the father figure, it has a role in it, but there's other figures out here. You don't necessarily have to have a father in your life. That's weird.
Let's clap it up for the brother. And so before we get to the young brother right there, come on, stand up, son. Stand up. Want to add another piece to this for the brothers, and then we're gonna jump back and forth because we got some other folks that want to really share some stuff. For the young man, how do you share with your father that you need him to step up? How do you share as a young man, 15, 16, 17 years old, how do you share with your dad in a way that's not disrespectful, that you need him to step up because you need him in your life?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Thanks. My name is Paul. I'm a Temple student, chemistry. I never had a father figure. I actually had a father all through my life. Living with my dad all through my life, what I realized and feeding off of him, maybe it's from a different cultural perspective, but what I realized is just the providing part. Even during moment, and my father figure or my father was supported a lot with my mother when my father wasn't able to provide. And this is what I mean. During moments when my dad might not have enough to provide, my mom would actually step in and give my father money to give me the money so that I could go buy a pair of shoes. Now that in its sense, maintained the father figure within the family. So honestly, father figure, no father figure around, I think the unifying factor of both parents in the family is extremely important.
Y'all show the brothers some love. Y'all give it up. Y'all give it up for
Now,
and so, brother, just for the sake of time, we got to move on. We'll come back to you. We'll come back to you because I want to jump up here to Brother Isaac. And how old are you, sir?
I'm 19 years old.
So you a young brother?
Yes.
Right?
I like
Go ahead and say it, man. You still young, right?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, but so with my dad, sometimes I don't think that he fully appreciated what my original dreams were, was comic books. I'm a huge comic book fan. I love Batman. It's my favorite superhero. And he never fully embraced that. He always wanted me to stop with watching Batman the animated series and wanted me to start watching the news. So when I was like 6 years old, he would always have on BBC and ABC News and stuff like that. And I was always kind of trapped in the news where he would never fully appreciate, you know, the fact that, no, I don't want to watch that right now. I want to stick with, you know, watching Batman beat up the Joker, but he never did that. So I think that with the father, you have to realize your son's dreams, your son's loves, and help him exercise those loves, at least, and still know when to say stop. We got to go into the real world now. So like when we go outside and we go out to church or whatever, you can't sit there and you have to pay attention and all that stuff. So know when to turn it off, but know when to turn it back on. With my dad, normally it was always off.
So y'all show the brothers some love. So let's jump back to the audience. I know I saw a couple of hands. And again, young men, this is all about you. We got another young brother. How are you young, man?
Am I young?
No, I'm just playing with you.
Absolutely young.
Absolutely young. So we're going to come to you.
All right, well, I'm going to stand up just because, you know, no disrespect, but this is barbershop talk, right? This is barbershop talk, right? Okay, great. So in a barbershop, and I'm used to being in the barbershop, and it goes all different types of ways and what we're looking to talk about. So the first thing I want to do is I want to address what the young man in the purple, is it a hoodie, talked about. Is there anybody that has a response to what he just said? I mean, this is barbershop talk, right?
Yes, sir.
So that's what I want, I mean, I'm sure. And also, I would like to hear more from, is there other young men here who don't have fathers? And what is your perspective on this? Yes, I want to hear from that. I want to hear, like, how do you feel growing up without a father? That's what I want to hear from. Is there anybody that can speak to that?
So the mics are coming around. Brothers, raise your hands. We got a young, and that's a good point, sir.
All right, that young man had a really good point by saying he doesn't need a father in life. So is there anybody that can speak to that?
Let's go all the way in the back, and then we're going to come back up here.
Well, I mean, my name is Tony Williams from Atlanta, Georgia. I go to Georgia Perimeter College. And growing up for majority of my life, well, honestly, my whole life, my mother and my father, they got divorced a long time ago. And my father stayed up north, and my mom, we moved down to Atlanta. And as the oldest in the household, I was looked to as sort of the man in the house, even though I wasn't at all. And I'd tell my little brothers and my sister, like, you know, I would always cling to whatever I saw, you know, as the man in the house. So it is important to have a male figure in your house, but a male figure that has principles and that sticks to their word. Because I meet a lot of people, you know, and this is just now in the business world, but growing up too, it's like a lot of people will say they'll do things, you know, for you, like, oh, I'll take you out, I'll do this, or I'll call you, or I'll talk to you, but it's not genuine, you know, it's not true. you know? So as far as having it's really important to have a male figure in life, a father figure, a father that's going to have the man in his word, and also a family, you know, that has that's solely around principles, good principles, that they're able to instill in their children, instill in their son in general, so that way they could, you know, grow up and become a great man, so they could do the same thing for their family as well.
Okay. Thank you. Over here.
Yeah, I got an answer to the question you asked before that. Let your kids show emotion. You know, the first sign of you seeing your child or your son crying, the first thing you say is chalk it up or man up. You know, stop crying. You know, let them. They don't know nothing about emotions. I mean, it's hard for me to explain it, you know, because I got so much going on in my head right now. But you know, let your kids express their emotions. You know, the first, I'm outside and a little boy crying. The first thing his dad say, get up. He don't even know why his son crying. The first thing he say is, get up, stop crying, wipe your tears. The little boy wipe his tears like he a soldier. He don't even know what that means, though. Like, what does that mean? Man up, stand up. What does that mean? I'm stuck.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Let's go to the back, and we have some more questions over here.
Hello everyone, my name is Christian DeJesus. I didn't have a father figure in my life. I had to pretty much be a man on my own. My mother, she actually has early dementia, and she also had diabetes. So with me being a man, like, I just had to man up pretty much. Like, make sure that I bring food to the table, bring in money, making sure that my mother is okay. Like, yeah, I have uncles and everything, but they have their own life. Like me personally, like, it doesn't matter if you don't have a father figure in your life. Don't try to say that, oh, it's since the fact that I don't have a father in my life, I can't be a man, or I can't do this, or I can't do that. It's your choice. It's your life. You're the one. You're your own person. So with me, like, standing here and just representing my mother. Like, my mother was pretty much my mom and my father. So with that being said, like, I love my mother to death, and I know that I was a man because of my mom.
Thank you.
I wanted Dave so I could jump in. So we are in the barbershop, right? I was waiting. I asked for where's the barber, because I was wanting, you know, shortcut in and hang. But I want to respond to a couple of things, and you're right about no one responded to the young man. I think you all know when I made my open statement, I think we got to, and young folks might not understand where I'm coming from, but I'm trying to, we got to look at our struggle in a historical context. First of all, I think everybody who is honest sitting here will admit that we need a healing campaign in our community. We're hurting. Black men are hurting, black women are hurting, we're hurting as a people. So all this stuff, like when he made that comment about relationship with his father, I could bet you his father's got some deep-seated problems. That's why he's responding to his son that way. His father needs help. We all need help. We're hurting people. We have to have an unconditional love for each other. We can't put conditions on our love, and particularly our children. I have 5 children, 14 grandchildren. They all got different personalities. Some of them's been in problems, some of them's been in jail, but I love them all. And I tell them all the time, it's an unconditional love. Malcolm used to always talk about, you bring a child in this earth, you got to take care of that child. And only a man can take care of the child. Any chump can bring a child in the world. That's a quote from Malcolm. But Malcolm also talked about the importance of education. And the importance of education is more than reading, writing, arithmetic. It's about developing analytical skills where you think out stuff. But all that is part of unconditional love. We don't talk enough about love in our community, and particularly about love with black men. And I'm not talking about any homosexual activity, brothers and sisters. And if some out there excuse me if you feel offended. I'm just talking about I have to love you to respect you because I respect myself. So we have to love our young males, and we have to understand, let our young males know that a lot of their fathers got problems. They got some problems. And they might have problems because they didn't have a father in their life. So it's generational. So that's what I'm saying. We got to look at some of these problems in a historical context. We got more black males in jail than ever before. All those are black men, were fathers, almost all of them, out of children's lives. That's a ripple effect over years now. We're talking about 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Right. So that's how come I will end, Dave. That's what I'm going to say. We really got to have a discussion about how we could create a healing community where we are healing our souls and ourselves and loving ourselves.
And so, Bilal, since we're in a barbershop, and I'm going to come to the brother over here. Since we're in a real barbershop, we got to tell and show these brothers how to love. Because some just don't know. And so how do we teach young black males how to love? I just want y'all to think about it. And anybody, whether they're in the barber chair or in the audience that wants to respond, let's respond. Because I think all too often we tell people to do stuff, but we don't break it down and make it simple enough for them to understand. That's step one. Then step two is we got to show them. We can talk about love all day, but if we're not showing young people and adults how to love, and I think that that's what we need to move towards. So anybody who raises your hand, we're going to get to you.
All right, so I would like to jump in real quick, and I wanted to speak to that in terms of I think that a lot of the lack of love of black men to me is coming from partially the media, because I was earlier in the day I was in a session with Brother Eric Grimes, otherwise known as Brother Shamari, and he was talking about a song by Nicki Minaj called "Looking Nigga" or "Looking Ass Nigga," whatever it was. Excuse me for the language that I'm about to use, but it's the truth. And basically, the media is helping develop a mindset that black men, otherwise in the media world, just known as niggas, aren't shit. And to me, that's really hurting us. And when Nicki Minaj makes a song called "Looking Nigga" or "Looking Ass Nigga," whatever it is, women are listening to that thinking that, okay, well, these niggas ain't shit, so I'm just not going to love them. I want to do stuff to hurt them on purpose. And to me, I think that we need to redevelop a culture of love of the black man in the media especially, just starting with like new TV shows of loving black men, kind of like the Cosby Show or something like that. Bring back the Cosby Show. There was a very important scene in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air where I think everybody hopefully knows what I'm talking about, where Will Smith's dad came back in the episode. And what's the name? Will Smith basically broke down because he was like, that's not my real father. And then Uncle Phil hugged him in a real moment. Uncle Phil hugged him like actor to actor, man to man, talking about you're loved here. It's black is love. So I think that we need to kill the mindset of niggas ain't shit and develop the mindset of niggas are everything to, or black men, excuse me, are everything to us.
So come on. Come on, brother. Come on. Come on.
How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Denzel, AO Inspired. To kind of touch on what you just said, I'm an upcoming actor from Philadelphia. I've done that monologue over and over again, so I know it. Mm-hmm. I think what is missing in our black community is we're missing this, to have everybody seated in one room, one gathering, openly talking about things that's going on in our community. Other ethnicities have this. I'm sure Caucasian people get together, Asians, they talk about what's going on in their neighborhoods and communities, and they figure out a solution to it. This has been a problem with us. I'm 22. I haven't had my father in my life for so long. My mom's been my mother, my father, and a whole lot of other things, but I think it's been a problem within our community for a long time. And basically, I just feel like we need to start getting together more often, have stuff like this, and maybe we could find like organizations. It's probably some already doing some, but we need to support them. There are organizations already probably doing this, but we don't know about it because we're so focused on the media and what they are portraying about Nicki Minaj's song and all this other stuff. So we need to stop concentrating on what the media is portraying and make our own media.
And so Let's clap it up for the brother. Give it to him. Let me also say, ladies and gentlemen, this is a live broadcast, and so you're going to need the mic because we want to be able to capture all of what's going on. That's number one. Number two, as you grab the mic, also think about one thing that you can do as an individual. Right. Because a lot of times we talk about what we want other people to do. Let's begin to also talk about one or two things that you might be able to do as an individual to help us move our community. A lot of hands. Keep your hands up, and we're going to be able to get you.
Do all the guys here believe that you need to, adapt to your habitat? Get used to your surroundings and know how to, maneuver and do what you need to do within life, right? Do we all feel like that? So if we know we live in a new era now, a lot of social media and a lot of, music is playing a major role in, some of the things that's going on out here, why don't some of the older people that are out here, attack that side to catch those young minds so that they can, relate and have an understanding?
Because it's easier to do nothing. It's easier to do nothing. And oftentimes, people won't take, and so I'm glad you asked that question, because do you see the blood trickling from my lip? I'm like biting my lip like crazy just hearing. I'm big on language. And I think one of the things that we have to do as a community is we have to be real careful about the languages we use and what we actually say and what we put into the atmosphere, because our tongues has power, right? And so this whole notion of teaching our community to love again, we say love like it's easy. Loving something is not easy, because first it takes commitment. If we don't have a commitment to anything, how can we possibly love it? Right? And so if we're going to seriously talk about love, we got to talk about our level of commitment. And we have not garnered the level of commitment to do the right thing, as opposed to going to the easy side and either not doing anything or doing the wrong thing. So our community has a problem with commitment. We're committed to a lot of things, but it's not the right things. Right? I was talking. I'm going to share this real quick. We were talking about the 265, the girls in Nigeria. How many of you have heard about that? About the 265 girls in Nigeria that's been kidnapped, and they're trying to get them back now. And I saw a Facebook post the other day that said, while I have compassion and love and really want something to happen with bringing those girls back, in America times 10, our black girls are being raped, kidnapped, killed on the same level in our own country, and somehow we don't have the same level of commitment, compassion, and love to do what I call Facebook revolution. That's what we're into. We're in Facebook revolution. We don't really want to get out and go out into the streets and do what we want to do. We want to revolutionize from the comforts of our own home, where it's safe, it's easy, it's comfortable, and I can ignore you without you knowing that I'm ignoring you. And then the last thing is this whole notion about mothers being fathers. Women and mothers can do a whole lot of things. They could be the biggest super mom there is in the universe, but there is one thing that they cannot be, and that is a father or dad. My mother told me that. My mother told me that. My mother told me that. So it's not from my own perspective that I know that. My mother said to me she could be the best she can be. She could teach me all the things, the principles, the moralities, the characteristics, and all those things that I need to do to be a respectable person. But the one thing she could not impart on me was manhood and to be my dad. And so if you extend that to this notion of love, how can you possibly embrace this notion of love if you're going to dismiss half of what got you here in the first place? Particularly when you don't know the story. You don't know what this dude is going through. Fathers are men, and we have men tendencies, and we do what men do, or we do what men have not been taught to do. And so when you're a son who's been brought up into a single mother's household like I have, I would die for my mother. I love her that deeply. I love her that deeply. I never take away from single moms. But don't dismiss what you don't know about your father. Just because he left is an indicator, but is an indicator to your situation, but not an identifier of who he was. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah. And so we're gonna jump in the back, and then we're gonna jump over to Brother Michael Cord, bring him into the conversation, and then again, bear with us. I know there's a lot of folk in here. If you raise your hand, we gonna get you. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Courtney Williams. I'm a social worker down in North Philly, and I just wanted to address the topic of black men and love. As like, to an extent, it may be hard for some black men to express love to their children because they don't actually know what love is. To an extent, it'll get defined from so many different realms, but it's not actually coming from the community. For instance, individuals may play spades, right? But depending on whose house we're in, a deuce of diamond is not actually a spade. So as a community, we need to be able to come to a consensus to be self-defining and also self-determined in certain ways. And then it also will go to the extent whereas what's the phenomena with black men leaving the home, and also the phenomena with black men choosing lesser and or futile mates that ultimately have it to the extent whereas it's systems and phenomena that's undermining the black family that's beyond our control, but these things are affecting us, and it's affecting us in a tangible way to the extent whereas it's materializing to negative statistics, etc. So in order for us to start to be able to love, we have to be able to define what love is, because for instance, hypermasculinity and violence may be considered love, but at the same time it says reactionary masculinity. So we need to be able to define those things on a grand scale so that we can move forward collectively.
Let's clap it up for the brother. We want to bring the Johnny Cochran of Philadelphia into the conversation. Come on, brother. Talk to us. Talk to us.
Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction to Johnny Cochran of Philadelphia. That's perfect. Actually, the Nat Turner of America is even better. But having said that, let me just spend a minute, no more than 2 minutes, saying a few words, because the organizers here, when I got here, were trying to pull me up to say a few words, but I kept saying no, I didn't want to talk because I came here to listen. One of the things that we as older men, well, middle-aged men, tend to do is to kind of speak down to youth, to tell them what needs to be done. And it's well-intentioned because we've gone through it out and we want to share that. But you got to remember, we were 20 at one point. We were 15 at one point. And when men 30, 40, 50 years old would try to impart wisdom, we couldn't hear it. Why couldn't we hear it? Because we weren't 30, 40, and 50 years old. We were only 19, 20, 21. So we got to understand that who we're talking to, and we're talking to you. But the first way that we should talk to you is by listening to you. We got to hear what you're saying. Now again, we can impart some wisdom, but the main thing is to listen to what you have to say. And I'll wrap this up by saying this. A lot of times we talk to young people, especially young black men, about moving forward. But I never tell them to move forward. I tell them to move backwards. Why would I tell them to move backwards? Because we as black people were the first human beings on the planet. We as black people came up with mathematics and algebra and science and anything you can think of came out of Africa. So you have to ask yourself, why is it today that black people are at the bottom of every category? Education, home ownership, prison, all those things. Is it because we're genetically predisposed to be there? Of course not. It's America and European racism. If we could get back to where we were before they did to us what they did to us, we'd be back where we were. Thank you.
Let's give it up for Brother Michael Cord. Come on, sir.
Okay,
you can stay where you are. That mic works. Thank you, sir.
I'd just like to respectively counter something that was said in terms of just the role of black women in raising children. I think we really have to look and think carefully about what that extra element is that men bring. I think it's very important that for a child, there needs to be someone who's actually a provider, who can provide them with things so that they can grow up. Those other elements where they may need this type of advice or a particular type of advice, that does not have to be a biological parent. And so often when we're saying to people, oh, you were raised in a single family household, where was your father or whatever, you really have to look at the situation. It is true that a woman can be just as great a provider as a man. It is also true that there are certain elements in life where someone may need some male guidance, and I'm just saying that doesn't have to be the biological father.
And before, and again, if you raise your hand, we gonna get y'all see the young brother in the blazer and these two over here. I would like to hear from some sisters, because the conversation got to be balanced, and the women have been awfully quiet. That don't happen too often. Come on. But still, you know, we can, the sisters are here. Any sisters want to respond really quickly?
I just want to say, definitely as women, we have to uplift the men that are in our communities. As sisters, we have to make sure that we speak to each other, that when we hear one another tearing down our black men, when you know that that's not right for them to do that, you have to call them on that, because it's, you know, my son didn't have his biological father, but the father that he has is taking care of him, and I'm happy.
Awesome. Thank you.
So I appreciate being here. Thank you for all the brothers for being here. And there was a couple comments that I really appreciated. One, the brother from Africa who shared the importance of just the balance. I know we're here to talk about fathers and the importance of fathers. You know, mothers play a critically important role in uplifting our men, raising boys to be men, but of course we can't do that by ourselves. And also this brother, understanding, like Brother Bilal said, that there's a lot of pain. And I really appreciate what this brother said about, you know, not having his father, and furthermore, not needing a father. A lot of times when relationships go bad, even adults, well, you don't want me anymore, well, forget you, I don't need you either. Well, really we want to say, I love you, I really need you, and how can you leave me at a time like this? And that's what this brother is saying. This is personal work for me. I run a fatherhood initiative and a movement called Raising Kings in Delaware, but it's because I'm raising a king and working to do that. My son is 16 years old and will probably say the same things that you're saying about his father. And we know that you don't really mean that you don't need nobody to love you. I know you're big and strong. Stand up again, because I want us all to give this brother some love. Because, and while you were speaking, something moved me to say there's so many young guys out here, and as men, and I think even women, we're dating these guys and marrying these guys, and not having a standard of them taking care of their children. If you know a man has 3 children and your child is the 4th, but you've never seen one of these 3 children, we have to hold our men to a higher standard. If y'all getting together, if the boys are getting together and y'all, you know, the Kappas, the Qs, you watching the Mayweather fight, the football games, and you know that you're hanging around with men and you know they're not doing right by their children, you gotta hold that's the real brotherhood. Hold them to a higher standard. You let them know as men, your children need you. And we gotta start calling these men out. We have to start calling these men out, and women recognize these boys need their fathers. We're not buying ourselves Father's Day gifts and saying, I don't need you either. Relationship went bad, that's okay. There's more men out there. Our sons need their dads, and we need you. Yeah. And if there's any way that we can reach out to these men, if anybody has an organization, I'm willing to help start something where you register your dad's name, tell us his name, phone number, email address, whatever you might know about him. Let me reach out. Let us reach out as men and say, hey, you know, there's this young brother and he really needs you in his life. So an outreach movement would be awesome.
I'm just observing a lot and learning a lot, and I'm a father. I just turned 30 in March. I'm a father of 2 children by my wife, the only woman I've ever been married to, the only woman I've ever had children by, and I appreciate the claps, but that should be just normal practice. Our community is so perverted that to hear a brother stand up and say he's been married to the same woman and he's had 2 children by the same woman, that just shows you the disparity that's in our community. And I'm finding that as an educator, as a father, as a mentor, as a coach, as all these things, these different roles I try to play, it came to a realization that I had to learn forgiveness.
I'm finding a lot of young brothers are very bitter. I didn't have a father. My stepfather cussed us up, cussed us down, treated us like trash. And so for me, not having a father and then having that male in my household who was there every day or every other day but treating me like I was garbage, I developed a lot of bitter, a lot of angerness towards men in general. So I always gravitate toward women, try to get a lot of women and things like that. But I never understood how much hatred and anger I had toward the male species because I had a standard that the males in my life were supposed to be at a certain level and they never came through. And so I had to come to the realization where I had to learn to forgive brothers in general. And I find a lot of young brothers that I work with on a day-to-day basis just angry. They don't even know why they're angry. They're just mad. They wake up mad. Their music is mad. Their clothing is mad. Everything is just, they just mad at the world because there's a lot of bitterness and anger because we think that the men in our lives should have came along and supported us and they didn't, and they really just dropped us on our head. So that healing that my brother was talking about starts with forgiveness. Forgiving the men that have dropped the ball, forgiving the men that were in your household but weren't even active in your household, learning to forgive them, and that's where the healing process starts. If we're just honest that you're just mad at the men in your life and mad at all the men you know, you have to learn that forgiveness process. And once you start the forgiveness process, I think other things will start to line up.
And as we go to the other side of the room, the brother makes a very important point. Yeah. But I would also say to the adults in the room, we got to help these young brothers understand their sources of pain. Because it's one thing to identify it, but now we need to be able to engage these young brothers. And that's why, I mean, we have people like Brother Marcus, who represents a mentoring organization, and Brother Joel and others. We need more boots on the ground adults to help these young brothers process the anger that they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. How many young brothers in this room are mad, angry, and frustrated because you don't have the kind of relationship with your dad you would like to have? Raise your hand. We're not going to put you on the spot. We just want to see what we're working with. Let's clap it up for the brothers for being honest.
Hey, Dave.
But the healing is not going to occur unless we do something and we start moving toward addressing that healing.
One of the things I was just going to add was that, you know, when we're talking about the father not being there, I'm 42, and about 6 years ago, my father was never in my life, and he reached out to me. And he reached out to me to, interestingly enough, never really supported my mom taking care of me, and he asked me for money. Right? And he's in Atlanta, and I'm in Philadelphia. He called me. We had about a 2-minute conversation, and he asked me for some money. And I never realized how angry I was until I answered him. Right?
You don't have to share with the
right. I won't share. I won't share.
It's a family. Yeah, you on the radio. You live on the radio too.
But going back to the forgiveness piece, and so that conversation ended, and I talked to a mentor of mine. It was an older gentleman, and he said, "Listen, Marcus, you need to forgive your father. You need to show in this day. You don't know the story of what happened between your mom and father. Right. And many times in our community, we blame the father because that's the person who isn't there. And so." But I couldn't get past my anger. And so I don't call my father. And then 3 weeks later, my father died. And so then I traveled back down to Atlanta, and I was at his funeral. And young men just kept getting up, talking about my dad. And they were saying, oh, this was like my father. He lived in the neighborhood. If you ever needed anything, he was there for him. Like if you needed something built, like he was good with his hands. He was a good carpenter. He would build people's decks for free. They just give him a 6-pack of beer and he'll build a whole house for you. But he was the guy in the community that like these young boys, they looked up to. And I'm sitting there in that church listening to all this stuff that's said about a man that I don't have a relationship with, thinking, oh, he was just like me. Right? We want to help people in our community. My father, who I never knew, I had his genes. And at that point in time, I went back to a story of mine when I was in college, and I just got, you know, this call from the Denver Nuggets, and at the same time I got this call, like this dream that I had to go to the NBA, I get news that my girlfriend is pregnant. Right? And so I'm 22 years old, and my girlfriend, who we're both seniors in college, and she tells me she's pregnant. And who comes to me? My coach, who's also my mentor. And we had a conversation that night, and I sat on the ground, and he sat down on the ground with me, and we both cried. And it was the first time that I had cried since my grandfather had died when I was 16 years old. And this was the first man that ever told me that he loved me at 22 years old. And I couldn't accept it. I wasn't able to accept this man telling me he loved me until about 6 years ago. And I was 36 years old. And so I understand when we as boys and young men, like many of us, like raise your hand, how many of you have had a man to tell you honestly and genuinely that he loves you? How many of you have had that happen to you? How many of you haven't? See, that's a problem for us. We got boys, young men in this room. We got a man in this room who's never had a man to tell them that they love them. And then I'm gonna finish. I know we want to get to the other questions. The next step when we talk about commitment is also what I was taught was love is action, right? You can tell if a person loves you by what they do. Right. Right? And so when we're in our community, we're talking about, like, every man wasn't born with the skills to be a great father. That's just, I'm sorry, we weren't. However, there are a lot of men in our community who aren't even fathers who are great daddies. Mm-hmm. And I think at the end of the day, what we have to do is, like the young lady said in the back, we got to hold our men accountable. We know the scum. We know the guys who aren't going to do anything. But we also know that there are people on our blocks in our neighborhoods who are good men, and we need to wrap them around us and wrap these men around these boys. So thank you for sharing, and thanks to the young man in the purple sweater for sharing his story.
Wait a minute, I know my man like he ready to choke me, but this brother, I can tell something's on this young man's heart right here. Right here, just stand up, they're gonna bring you to my, I can just see it on his face that he got something, so we gotta get him, come on.
My name is Zion. I'm here supporting Boyd, and for half of my life, I never had a father in my life, but to what you were saying, when a man told you that you loved him, or that he loved you, I can remember the first time when my mom had brought my stepfather over here, Mr. Kevin, home, and I would push him away, and I continued to push him away because I didn't like men at all, because I just felt that they were bad and they didn't need to be in my life at all. But the first time that he told me he loved me was on Father's Day, and I had gave him a card, and when he first told me that, my heart just went into such a place where all the anger that I felt for men and guys and people and just the male species itself, I just went away, and it just was like, wow. That's what it feels like to have a father in your life. And for the longest time, I would always call him my stepfather, and that's what he was, my stepfather. But continuously and recently, I've just been looking to it as he is my father now.
I like that. Hold. I really want this brother to respond. Dad, yeah. Come on. Y'all clap it up for the brother.
Well, for me, my name is Kevin Greer. I'm Zion's father, dad, man that loves him. I'm a little nervous myself.
You are?
Crazy, but I just ask everybody to find a church, get inside that church, align yourself with the rules of God. Start from there, because we wasn't born with instructions on how to be a man. Okay? Your instruction book is that Bible. Start from there. Follow his rules. and go from there.
Thank you, thank you.
Afternoon, brothers. Ron Toole from Coatesville Senior High School. Ron Toole from Senior High School, and I work with our Bridge mentor program in 9 through 12. And I just wanted to speak when we talked about, how to show love. One of the things that I do, and I'm not a professor, I'm not a, I don't have the blueprint for it, but is to be available for my young men. And it's not always between 7:30 and 2:30 when they may want me, want to speak with me, or need me. And so I try and be available to them, and I'm committed to that. Call me at home, call me on my cell phone, stop by. I try and stop by and see them in classes, and I try and listen when they ask to spend time with me. And so that's how I try and show them love, and that was a question about 15 minutes ago. But I try and show them that, and so by demonstrating that and that commitment and that persistence, hopefully they can mirror it, and when it's time for them to do it, they'll be able to do the same thing. So I just want to say, and then what am I doing? Trying to be committed to these group of young men that I see every day.
Awesome. Okay, I got you. I just want to do this really quickly because I think it's important. Can I have this family come up here? Y'all, come on up here. I want y'all to look at this family, because I don't want any young men or any fathers to leave here thinking that healing is impossible. Right. This is doable in our community, but we got to commit to it. And so I just wanted y'all to look at, this is a family that had some challenges, that had some struggles around, who is this guy? I don't really know him. But this is the real work, y'all. Y'all clap it up for this family. So if you do have a question or comment, stand up, and we're going to come to you. So we got 3 or 4 brothers over there, my man here. Okay, so come on, Jerry. Yep. Jerry?
Yep, this is for the brother on stage here. My father, first of all, I had the benefit of having an amazing father. He was not able to...
Y'all clap for that.
He wasn't someone who could say that he loved me or actually hug, but there was never a day that went by where I didn't know that. I grew up loving Batman and Spider-Man, Silver Surfer. Hey, he would carry in his wallet which issues the Silver Surfer I needed. He would be with me, taking me to the conventions, watching the shows with me, and now I do comic books for a living. That's what I do. In fact, next week, we have the East Coast Black Age of Comic Convention. Black comic creators, come by, we'll show you some love. We can show you what you...
Tell them where it is.
At the Enterprise Center here in Philly. It's been 12 years going, okay? Black comic creators, artists, writers, Photoshop guys, animators, and that's what we do, okay? But that's what he did. He encouraged me. I went to art school, I do that, and now that's what I do. So when I go to, school things, that's what I do, Also, my dad, like I said, wasn't able to always say that. So when I had kids, when my wife was pregnant, I said to my wife, I want to be the kind of dad that can say that. I said, so if my son does fall down and hurt himself, I want him to be able to come to me and not just walk past me to get to you. And that's what I do. So if he wants to cry, if he's hurt, he can cry. It's all right.
And so this is how this thing works, y'all. I want the 2 of y'all to connect.
Yeah.
Email, phone number, because that's what we got to start doing in our community. We can't talk about opportunities for young men. We got to create opportunities for young men. So we're going to go over here really quickly to the guy in the sport coat.
Yeah, my name is Josh Commander. I'm a student at Delaware Community College. I came into this country 2 years ago, but I just want to address the question that was raised early on for young guys whose fathers are not present. There's a saying that says, your inspiration coming from above, your motivation coming from within. But I am standing here as a testament of both of that. My father's not been in my life since I was 5 years old. And living in a world, in a country that is full of war, poverty, unemployment, and lack of education, it was really tough for me. But I just want to say out to all other young guys who are missing their fathers, You know, the one thing you can do to get them back, the one thing you can do to show them that you care, that you want to do, is to be inspired your very self. You got to inspire yourself by having good qualities, like you got to work, you got to succeed in your education, stand out, say, okay, since you're absent, I'm going to make sure that I do my best to prove to you that there is someone present, you know, because our inspiration goes a long way. Our dreams goes a long way. As for me, missing my father since I was 5 years old, it's been pretty tough for me, but my mother was there. But I just want to say out to all young guys who are missing their fathers, take out the anger and start being inspired to do your best academically, socially, personally, and above all, religiously, because we have to believe in each other. We have to stand, and we have to see and achieve a dream, because we all got to be fathers in the long run, you know, so you don't want that to happen to you. So you got to stand out and live your dream, because you can do it. As an African, I'm so proud of being here today, and I'm so proud of being in such a wonderful congregation, and for this opportunity, I'm grateful as an opportunity. So I just want to say that to all young guys. Just be yourself, stand out, and be positive. Awesome. That's what you can do today.
Thank you, brother.
That's what you can do. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we get ready to go over this, brother. We're going to try to get as many questions or comments. And again, for those, I want us also to begin to think about things that we can do in our individual lives. This young brother here decided that he was going to accept this man in his life. So there are individual things that we can do really quickly in terms of housekeeping. We need those evaluation forms. Those evaluation forms are critically important for the BMDS staff. So please make sure you fill out those evaluations, and also this tear-off card. This helps us stay in contact with you in terms of some of the things that we're doing for fathers and families and mentoring around the country. So we want to stay connected with you. So we're going to go over here to this brother to the right. Anybody else who has a question or comment, we're going to get you. No, he been in line for a minute.
Yeah, man, I got to go to the bathroom too. All right, first thing I want to say is I just want to start with this quote. You can accept what you can respect, and you respect what you can accept. And the reason why I say that, because like this brother in the pink shirt, I didn't have my natural father in my life, but I had my stepfather who was in my life since I was 2 years old. When he first came into my life, I didn't always understand his role. I didn't always understand what his position was and all that kind of stuff, but he proved himself to me by what he did. By the time he spent, by the money he spent, by the experiences we had, by the car drives, by the mentorship, by the different things he imparted in my life. And the reason why I was able to accept him in that role was because I respected what he did. And I feel like a lot of young brothers are hurting because they don't have a lot of men they can respect. They don't have a lot of men they can respect. They can respect the pastor, they can respect the, they can even respect the drug dealer because they're consistent. And what we're missing in the black community with father figures and with mentorship and things like that is consistency. We got to be consistent in these young brothers' lives. If we say we're going to be there, we need to be there. We got to get away from the talk and the chatter and all this kind of stuff and start proving ourselves by what we do. The second thing I want to make, a point I want to make, and I'm out the way, to what my sister said in the back, and I hear this often, oh man, we got to uplift our brothers. Listen, the heck with that. When are we going to start uplifting our sisters? We got to stop milking women and milking our sisters and saying, oh man, it's so hard and it's this and that and the sisters got to uplift us. When are we going to put ourselves in positions as black men to start uplifting our sisters so the respect can come back to the black man it's like it's supposed to? And that's all I want to leave you with.
How you doing? 2 points. The first point is, this actually happened to me in a barbershop. I had a young brother on my left-hand side, and there was a man on my right-hand side. And I did not know at first that they were father and son. And they had a little conversation going on with me between them. And then the father told the child to go up to the chair and get his hair cut. And then after the child had gotten his hair cut, he came back and he grabbed his father's arm and led his father to the barber's chair. What I didn't realize at the moment, or until that moment, was that his father was blind. So I'm going to give you a novel idea for those who are angry. Sometimes it's going to take the son to show the father what he can't see. And you do that through forgiveness, because as the brother up there, that brother talked about forgiveness, and you do that because, as that brother up there said, oftentimes the father is hurting too. And he has a shame or whatever it is, and when you forgive him, it gives him the avenue to come into your life. The second quick point to that brother right there, my oldest is my son, who is 35 years old. He has a half a lung, okay? They cut it out when he was 12 years old. He can live without his half a lung, but he would prefer not to. If he had his choice, he would have his whole lung, because he can function better with his whole lung rather than his half lung. So I understand that you got some pain going on, and I understand that your father ain't there, but show him what he can't see, and understand that although you can function without him, you'll function much better with him.
Yeah. And so here's what we're going to do. Just want to give some housekeeping notes. We're going to take brother here, sir, you still have a question? And then we're going to allow the brothers in the chair to kind of take us out a little bit with some final comments, but we definitely need your evaluation. And before we leave it, let me just say this. Can Dr. Lowry stand up? Can Dr. Lowry stand up? That's a golf clap, y'all. We need a real clap. One of the reasons why I asked Dr. Lowry to stand up is before people leave, is because, y'all, it really is going to take a village. And in that village, we need all boots on the ground, man, woman, child, you name it. And so I want to personally thank Dr. Lowry, because she's doing the work. And what's going to have to happen, particularly for the adults in here, we got to be willing to do the work after we leave here, because we come together and we talk a lot, y'all. I mean, we talk infinitum. I mean, it's to the point where I just be like, just leave me alone. We talk so much. How many of y'all watch football really quickly? We're my football fans, all right? We got to move out of the huddle. We in like a perpetual huddle. Y'all know what the huddle is. We gather around, we talk about the play. We need to run the damn play, y'all.
And the ball don't go nowhere.
It's time to run the play. So I want to publicly thank Dr. Lowry and her family, because Dr. Lowry could have retired, y'all. She don't have to do this in this community. And this is a lot of work on her. She limping around, screaming at me and other people. So y'all clap it up for Dr. Lowry and her sister. Right. And so we're going to go to the brother here, and then we're going to go to Bilal and Isaac and Brother Marcus. And the elder here. I'll call you an elder. Is that you good? Okay, all right. Come on, brother.
My name is Ronald Crawford. I'm a therapist. I work with at-risk youths and men who recently returned from incarceration in North Philadelphia. I also want to thank Dr. Lowry for putting on such a great event and taking the chance on a stranger. And I say that because my question is, when are we going to do something different? When are we going to try some new methods, allow some new ideas to come in? As a therapist, sometimes I get a little agitated, because when we start talking about all of these solutions, the elephant in the living room of the African American culture is therapy. We do not want to talk about that. We try, because I heard somebody talking about expressing feelings and pain and hurt and anger, but you got to go to a professional counselor to deal with those things. If I have a problem with my car, I'm not going to go to my barber to get it fixed. So if I want to heal, if I got anger, I need to go to a professional therapist. But black people are resistant to therapy because of the ignorance of the culture, because of the stigma that's associated with having a behavioral health problem, or just thinking that anybody could be a counselor. My mom could be a counselor. My mentor could be a counselor. They can't. White people go to counseling for any and everything, and they heal. We don't go to counseling for nothing. We keep everything in, we get hypertension, and we got strokes. What I do in my own practice as a therapist, I wrote a book titled Who's the Best Rapper? Biggie, Jay-Z, and Nas, where I analyze rap lyrics to teach therapy. And I also want to thank Michael Kors, because Michael Kors took a chance on somebody he didn't know. The book introduces therapy to people who need therapy, who might not think that they need therapy. So let's go to therapy. And the last thing I want to say, when we go to therapy, we got to go to culturally sensitive therapists. Therapists who understand the differences between black people and white people. And I say this, white people therapy is an example. Example of white people therapy is a therapist, Ryan, how are you doing today? Draw a picture of your anger. What color is your depression? That's not how we talk. We need to be able to say, I'm angry as hell at my dad because he beat my mom. We need to go through, so all them people talking about having anger, first you need to go through the anger and experience it totally before you can heal. Don't tell nobody not to be angry. Go through it, but you got to find healthy ways of going through it. Working out, journaling, sports, or whatever. Go to therapy. Thanks.
The brother makes a very important point, and for some of the young brothers in here, as you begin to think about careers, we need more black male teachers, and we definitely need more black male therapists. So just think about that. We need more black male teachers, therapists, social workers, and lawyers. That's a whole nother form right there. And so we're going to go to the brother. And Dr. Lowry, can you start making your way up here?
My name is Stephen Jackson. To speak on love, I raised my son. He's not my biological son, but I call him my son. I raised him since he was 7. He's 14 now. And to the fathers that, or stepfathers, or father figures and mentor, something I noticed in this generation of young men that I deal with is they want to be appreciated and acknowledged. That's very important. That's a necessity, to be acknowledged and appreciated. And this is what drives them to get involved in nonsense, when they need that sense of direction and development. So what I do is I hold court. I call it a hold court. I take them on a basketball court and have conversations after they beat me one-on-one. Sometimes I win, but, you know, and it's just spending that time with them, and they tell me, I appreciate that. I appreciate that because I haven't had nobody take the time to take off work, use vacation days to spend time with those that are missing that father in their life. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Jackson. Thank you. Let's clap it up. People are coming around to grab the evaluations. Let's go to the brother here, and then we're going to close out. Please, everybody, just give us a few more minutes.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fred Whiten. I'm from an organization called 100 Black Men. And as you can see from the color of my hair, if I'm not the oldest, I'm one of the oldest. I yield to my brother over here. Many topics were talked about today, and one of them talked about love. And so while we were sitting here, I decided that I would look up the definition of love. This is what I came up with. A profoundly tender, passionate affection for another person. A profoundly tender, passionate affection for another person. The second meaning is a feeling of warm, personal attachment or deep affection as for a parent, child, or friend. Now, with that definition, we talk about boots on the ground. So I want to tell you that even though 100 Black Men is a worldwide organization, here in Philadelphia, we open our doors to all the young brothers in this room. We want to show you a profoundly tender, passionate affection for another person. So all of the young brothers in this room, feel free to come see me personally, and I will make sure you get into one of our programs free of charge. If you need a testimony to find out who I am, talk to some of my mentees who are in the room right now. Joe Austin, Kevin Covington, my president, Keith Warren, and there's many, many others, because as you run a program like Upward Bound, you become a surrogate father. As you become a therapist, my brother over here can testify to this, you recognize that trust is the primary ingredient in building a relationship. As a school teacher, I had to build trust to build a primary relationship. So I submit that trust is the cornerstone in any relationship, aside from forgiving. So I believe in what I do. I do it for free. I do it for free. My wife has an issue with that when we go to Pathmark or when Pico comes, but I work for a stronger source. And I take my power and my orders from a brother who we nailed to a cross and still forgave us.
Thank you. And so we have one quick comment from the distinguished gentleman to my right, and then we're going to close out with the panelists, and then we want to bring Dr. Lowry up, because Dr. Lowry is going to, she doesn't even know this, but she's going to take a moment to share the historical significance of this barbershop talk, so we don't want anybody to go anywhere. Yes, sir.
Okay, now we know who walks around the barbershop starting all the trouble here. So, no, this is in response to you when you asked us what we would do as individuals. And the one thing I just had to mention is, please start in our schools. We talk about a community, this is the easiest way to, because some of us really do not know where to help. Yes, we have several organizations, and I'm born and bred in Philadelphia. I'm just an advocate for my city. So if you really want to know where to start, how you can start helping out, all you have to do is find your neighborhood school. I don't care if it's a elementary, middle school, high school, they need the help. They will be more than happy to accept you, because we are always trying to find out how we can get supports. And right now, our school district now is in serious demand. I mean, forget about the deficit, forget about what we're lacking in as far as the funds. We're really lacking in supports, and just having people just stand at the door and just greet these young men and young women that are coming to our schools every day. So let's start in our schools, everybody. Let's just support in our schools. That's all I had to say.
Thank you. And so we're gonna go to Bilal. Bilal, we just need you to be brief and share some share with the group, because I know you have 40-some years experience on the ground doing this kind of work. Share with the young brothers, man, just a few things that have helped you along the way, man.
First of all, let's give a round of applause for Brother David for moderating.
Thank you.
Brother Kenny, and my other two brothers, and my brother Michael. I will close by saying this. I mean, sometimes we try to make things too complex. We really do. You know, we miss the ground, the basis of where we came from. And you heard me talk about before, and I know people say, well, how you define it, and Brother Fred was talking about the definition of love. It starts in the house, it starts with love, it starts with unconditional love, and it starts with fathers from being there every single day with their children. And that's, you be there with your children, if you can, be there physically every day, but you be there as much as possible with your children. And Kenny was right, you make that commitment. And that starts every single day, like the brother said earlier about he just spends time in basketball court with his, and I don't use it, let me just say y'all, I don't use the term stepchildren. Child in my house, that's my child. I'm raising that child in the house, that's my child. I don't use the term stepchild, stepfather. That's just my personal opinion. And I've developed a relationship with my stepchildren's fathers and let them know, I have your child in my house, I got to have a relationship with you, because we can't have that conflict. Because if you're in that kind of family kind of situation, it's easy for those conflicts to develop. So you have to work out a mutual understanding between the mother and the father, or the biological mother and the father. So I would just say, let's make things as simple as possible and be there with those children. And when you're there with those children, the children in your community, and we cannot be afraid of our children. We can't be afraid of them. We can't be afraid of any youth in our community, because when I'm in my community, all the youth are my children. Right. Because that's where I grew up, in West Philadelphia. Everybody took care of me, and everybody could discipline me. And we had a stronger community then. So I would just say, let's go back to some of the simple things that made black folks in this country the great people we are today. And that is our commitment to our culture, our commitment to our people, and our love and unconditional love for ourselves and our family.
Thank you. Brother Isaac and then Brother Marcus.
All right, so when I transferred from Mastery to Imhotep after being held back in high school in the 11th grade, I was at a low place. If it wasn't for the help of my coach, Chris Major, who is the most positive person I've ever had in my life, and those teachings of positivity, I probably wouldn't have made it to where I am right now. If it wasn't for my father, whose continued encouragement in my life and in my striving for success in and out of school, I wouldn't be where I am right now. I always believe that it starts with positivity. You have to always think about the brighter future. You always have to think about tomorrow and how, you know, it might be cloudy today, but the sun's going to come out tomorrow, and if not tomorrow, the next day or the next day. So you always have to have that hope. And that's really where it starts, in that even if you don't have a father in your life, you still have to have that hope. You still have to at least know that you still have somebody next to you. You still have a best friend. You still have a brother. You still have, you know, your grandfather or uncle or whoever. There's always somebody in your community that you can look over to, and there's always hope. When thinking about my whole transition from Mastery to Imhotep, and then from the fact that I was held back and all that, I always just also think about, you know, how, you know, grades don't define you, and your parents don't define you. You define you. When you come out and you start to develop your personality, it's your personality. Your parent might have some effect on it, but it's genuinely your personality. That's the one great thing about the fact that we're human beings. We're all individuals. And learn who you are, learn your strengths, learn your weaknesses, and learn how to make your weaknesses your strengths. And I think that through positive mindsets and through knowing who we are, that's how we begin to change, and that's how we begin to affect our community in a brighter way.
Well, first I want to thank Dr. Lowry. Thank you so much for putting this together for this. I know this is your brainchild, and I hope that today was a happy day for you to see our community come together the way it has. And thank you to the esteemed panelists and Mr. David Miller. You know, as I'm sitting here, it's tough because, you know, it's a lot of emotion. I think as a people, you know, and I only have a couple references, but I think we are really touchy-feely people. We're very emotional. We're very sensitive. That's who we are. And I think, you know, getting to the love part and the pain and addressing those emotions are going to be important for us as we move forward. When I came here today and I brought my two daughters, the first thing I thought about was, you know, I want to be involved in the fight to help develop our black men, because, you know, it could be a husband out here in the audience for my daughter. There could be someone out here who can be a good friend and show my daughters what it means to be a good man to a woman. And then also, you know, when I look at our community, I live in Philadelphia. I've been here for 14 years, and I consider this my home. You know, I want to be a part. I don't want to live somewhere and not be a part of making it better. And at the end of the day, we've heard a lot of people talk today, and we felt really good about some of the stuff that we've heard here today. But really, the proof is in the follow-up, right? The proof is in what we do after we leave here. It's like going to church on Sunday. You know, you get a good message, and then Monday morning you cussing again, right? What I want us to do, what my hope and prayer is for us today, is that there's a connection that's made. There's something that you've been led in some way, you've got some information that you're going to follow up on. Being the CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters, I know that is not something that I look at as I set on a pedestal or what have you. I look at it as a responsibility. And so, and I've worked in community, worked in nonprofits all of my adult life. I've spent my life and will continue to spend my life supporting our community. And so today, when I look out here and I see these young African-American boys, because that's our focus today. Our focus today is about how do we support our African-American boys. And I want to make sure that I'm doing everything in my organization and all the resources that I have are going towards developing the men in this room as well as the men in our community. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to working with each and every one of you as we go out to help make our community better. Thanks.
Thank you, thank you. Don't move yet, don't move, don't move.
You know, I think that, you know, there's a couple of themes today that I just want to remind you to kind of walk out the door with. And I think the first theme is we can win. We can win this thing. We can win at the game that we're playing, at the seriousness of our life. I think that we have the right team. Dr. Lowry put together a day that assembled the team. And the team now has its instructions, and now we have to go onto the field and we have to do the work. But I really, really believe that we can win this game if we're serious about it and we're committed to doing so. So I want you to give yourselves a round of applause as you go out and do that work. The second thing is this notion of healing. You know, we're doing a documentary. If you have not seen the flyer, we will be back here at Arcadia University on June
9th.
10th. Who said 9th?
10th. I'm sorry.
10th. We'll be here on June 10th. And we're going to come back and talk about this whole issue of anger and emotion and healing. And Bilal, I love what you said, because you were also handed today this blue bow tie, and I don't think we told you what this is. And it's a campaign called Ties Never Broken. And we created the campaign to show that our community is tied together no matter what. And it was originally put together to really talk about that the ties between fathers and their children are never broken, but the reality is that the ties of our community is never broken. And I love the whole notion of healing campaign, and I'm going to take that and reframe this conversation around this blue bow tie being a symbol of our community and our continuous need and desire to heal. And so wearing this is an indicator that you are part of that healing process. Does that make sense? And so for those of you who have the blue bow ties in the bottom of your bags or in your pocket, hopefully I just gave you a reason to take it out of your pocket and put it on your lapel so that it gives you the opportunity to spread a conversation about the need to heal. And then the last theme, and I'm done, is this whole notion of relationship. I think that the vast majority of folks get into the situations that they're in because they enter into situationships and not relationships. A situation occurs, and then they find themselves in the same ship, and they have to find a way to live with each other because of the situation. And we need to embrace and really understand what relationship means. How do we relate to each other? How do we relate to our moms? How do we relate to our dads? How do we relate to our sons? How do we relate to our daughters? How do we relate with ourselves? And I think that if we can embrace the notion coupled with love and the need to be able to understand that we need to coexist together, that we cannot do this thing apart, I think the winning for us will be much easier. God bless you all, and I can't wait to see you at the top.
Thank you, Kenny. Brother Michael?
Once again, I want to be very, very brief by saying let's give another round of applause to Dr. Lowry and to Arcadia, and certainly all of the panelists. But the final thing I want to say is, please, a lot of folks said a lot of stuff. Take at least one thing that you heard and run with it. Otherwise, today is a complete waste of time. Thanks.
Thank you, thank you. So we're going to bring up Dr. Lowry. We might take her 10 minutes to walk up here. I know she got a sore foot. So we working with you. Y'all clap it up for Dr. Lowry.
Oh, wow. We know that.
And second of all, I've got more energy than he'll ever have in his little leg. For the radio. For the radio, okay.
She wasn't listening, man. You know how that is sometimes.
First of all, can you hear me? You heard me without the mic. I want to say thank you, because every time we do this, I am just so flooded with emotion for the honesty of the young men who are willing to tell us and show us what we need to be doing to make sure they walk the right path. So first, thank you to the young men who are so honest. And this work that we do, I tell people all the time, I am so fortunate that I can pick up the phones. I got Marcus on speed dial now, Dave on dial. So I'm able to call folks, because I pay nobody nothing. I'm broke, all right? And come and say, just come help me out and do what we do. So, and WURD, I'm going to tell you, I was scared last week. They will tell you, Kevin Covington said he had never seen me be crazy before. We only had 300 and some registrations. And I went nuts. I said, we've got all this material. I said, you know, the colleges is giving us all of this. What are we going to do? We don't have the registration. WURD did a blitz for us that was phenomenal. So I want to thank WURD and Sarah Lomax. Our registration went almost to 900. All right? So I definitely want to make sure Sarah Lomax knows that I love her. Where's she at? Love you, dear. Love you. Love you. Now, that's a strong sister. That's a strong sister. Also, my executive committee, please stand up, because y'all tired. I know y'all tired.
Stand up. Stand up.
Stand up, my executive committee.
Stand up.
And some of these folks have been with me since the beginning. And see the good-looking woman in red? That's my sister who came in from Maryland to make sure to help me out. And my daughter's somewhere else, and you know, so again, this and my aunt, I mean, people have just helped me so much that I'm just sometimes overcome with emotion. And this whole thing started out, the Barbershop talk, last 2012, and E. Stephen Collins was the first moderator. And E was the kind of guy, he knew I liked Frankie Beverly and Mays. And I could call E and say, you know, I don't ask you for nothing but Frankie Beverly and Mays in town. And he'll get me my tickets. And his wife was my undergraduate student when she was a student, and I knew when she met him and told me she was dating this guy, and I said he was too old for her. You know, and so I wanted to make sure you understood how important being in this place and us naming this E's Barbershop Talk was so important to us. And as all of you have said, the work is only just beginning. And again, I agree with so much of what everyone has said. And I'm so glad someone said something about uplifting, because see, I don't uplift nothing but my couch. Okay? Okay, if you understand anything about African cosmology, you're beside one another. All right? You don't uplift when you're beside one another. All right? And I need to make sure that we start understanding that the only way this fight will get better is that we do look at each other face to face, and we love each other, as my brother Bilal said, and understand that if not us, then who? Right. And that part of it is so important, because I tell my young brothers in working with this thing, I'm going to send out a thing on the Facebook and tell you when our next meeting is. Because 2 years from now, guys, Dr. Lowry's doing this. I need you brothers to come in and take this over. Let me write for the money. Okay? I need you all to come in and run this and do this for me, so that, again, I don't have to be walking around being crippled. Okay, as my brother over here talks about, and these young brothers sitting here. So listen, I can talk all day. I love you all, and it is done out of love. I love you, I love you, I love you. Thank you for making us have a wonderful BMDS 2014, and we'll be back.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I learned that fathers truly are the life force of the black community, as well as mothers, but fathers especially, and that there is a deficit going on in our community right now, but that as we continue, that deficit, I believe, will decrease, especially with seminars such as this, where we learn what it's truly like and what it is in the community, and how we can be a father without actually having to share the same DNA.
What I got most profoundly today, particularly at this last session, was that young brothers are hurting and they're mad. You know what I'm saying? Young brothers are hurting and they're mad, and if we're not careful, we're going to, well, we're already seeing the results of that anger and that hurt, and we have to do something to address this, because if not, we're going to see these young people, as they already have started doing, turning on us, you know, and it's going to be a problem for us as a nation and for the future of our people. I mean, it's really scary to think if we don't reverse this or turn it around, you know, what's going to happen.